All right, hello, and welcome to the Vegan Luna podcast. This is the very first podcast that we're actually doing from. I'm in Kuwait, and my guest is in the United States. And what we're doing right now is we're doing it over through Zoom, like Skype. It's kind of interesting for me. This is my first time recording this way, but my guest, Mr. Trey, Raw Gypsy, not quite hippie, actually gave me this idea. He hit me up and he's like, hey, I really want to do a podcast with you. What do you think? I like your story. It's interesting. And I was like, yeah, sure. But you're in this US. I'm in Kuwait. How the hell are we going to do this? And thank God technology came in to rescue us. And he taught me the way. He taught me, he's like, let's do Zoom. Let's record like this. And we set it up. It's up. If you guys want to listen, we already got one episode in, our very first conversation, where Mr. Trey interviews me, and I share my story on his podcast, on his channel. Hopefully it'll be up on YouTube, I imagine. Is that correct? It'll be on YouTube.
That is right.
Yeah,
yes,
right?
Sir.
And so this episode will also be up on YouTube. So go ahead, take it away. Tell us a little about yourself. Actually, first, before that, we're going to do the rapid fire. I'm going to do some rapid fire in inspiration because of you. What do you call yours? Hot fire seats?
The hot seat?
Yeah, the hot seat. All right. Well, I'm calling mine rapid fire. Yeah. I took this from you, and I was like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's see how
good
you in the so-called hot seat. All right. So, question number one.
Yes, sir.
Question number one. If a movie was being made about your life and you could choose the actor to play you, who would you choose and why?
I would choose Matt Damon, and I'll explain why.
Well, that's part of the question.
That's right. My younger pictures of me, especially when I had more hair, I look a lot like Matt Damon. I've been told that quite a bit, and I can see it. And as a matter of fact, my daughter, we were at Sam's one time, and we were looking at the box for The Martian, the movie The Martian, with him in the suit, the space suit. And my youngest daughter, she was, maybe 6-7 years old at the time. She said, "Hey, Mommy, look, it's Daddy." So I've always been told that. And if I had to choose somebody, Matt Damon, he's a great actor. So that's who I would choose. Yeah, Matt Damon.
That's a great one. I like it. I can see it. Especially I can imagine just you and The Martian, that cover shot for sure. All right. So next question: if you can instantly become an expert in something, what would it be? Just instant. I'm an expert right now. What would it be?
Wow, an expert.
Just maybe
nutrition.
Nutrition. Okay, why?
Nutrition. Because I like to share. I love to share my thoughts and my views, and I think that because nutrition is so important to it has a side effect to everything, whether it's the environment, ethical treatment of animals, to ourselves, to our bodies. I think being able to have the preeminent, the very best information, possible, that would be very advantageous to be able to communicate that point. And, when you're an expert at something, you are, especially if you're the expert, it would be hard to debate it, or someone to debate it with you. And I would love to be able to debate and spread that, or my viewpoint, my expertise in nutrition.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's perfect. I think that you could do a lot of good with that for sure. All right, so if you could visit any place in the world, where would it be and why?
Florence, Italy.
Wow, Florence.
Because Florence, Italy is the home, the birthplace of Michelangelo Buonarroti, and I am a huge Michelangelo fan, and always have been. Since I watched the movie The Agony and the Ecstasy with Charlton Heston and Rex Harrison. He plays Charlton Heston plays Michelangelo, and Rex Harrison plays the Pope. Pope Sixtus, and he commissioned him to paint the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I've always been a fan of Michelangelo. I'm an artist myself, so I draw and paint as well. So, and Florence, Italy is one of the is the place that I want to visit. That's the place I want to visit, and I will be visiting it next year. I booked a trip to Italy, and Florence is on the stop. So that is my bucket list. That is where I want to go.
Awesome. Nice. I love it. All right. So last question. Would you rather? I know you love the would you rather was the last ones.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would you rather, and think about this one for a minute. Don't just jump. I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, but just think for a minute. All right. Would you rather have Tom Brady or Drew Brees? think about this one for a minute.
I don't have to think hard about it. I really don't. You know what? Let's break it down. Who reaches all the measurables as far as a quarterback? That would be Tom Brady. He's 6 foot some change. He's got a great arm, great mind, super mind. Sees the field like not many others do. He's surrounded by an incredible coach team.
Work ethic is there.
He's got 6 Super Bowls. So I mean, you can't compare to that. But when you take into consideration the drive, the determination, the athleticism, because Drew Brees is athletic, regardless of whether he's just shy of 6 foot, the cat can dunk a football over the goalpost. That's pretty impressive. And he was a great tennis athlete growing up, not to mention just a great football player, a great baseball player. He's a stupendous athlete, very fast, a lot faster than most people give him credit for. And he is he is the most accurate passer in the history of the NFL. And he has the most passing yards in the NFL. And he also happens to play for my favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, which doesn't suck. But the fact that cat dislocated his shoulder in a way that he should have never, ever played again, ever, came back
he tore his
to my team.
Right? Was it
That's right. That's right. He tore it was his labrum, I believe, within his shoulder. I think.
Something in the shoulder, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And which is very similar. And it was a dislocation of the way that he was falling on a fumbled ball, but was able to recover, have surgery, come to my city and turn that entire city around from a losing mentality, because we were losers for a long time, to turn that city around from a loser's mentality to a winner's mentality. I mean, those are measurables that you can't measure. So I'd have to pick Drew Brees.
All right, man. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I just want to say you're welcome for that. As a Chargers fan, we drafted him. We got him ready, primed up, and ready to go. The torn labrum or the injury that he received in the last play of the game, last game of the season. Didn't matter either way. They weren't going to go to the playoffs that year. I think they ended up 8-8 that year. And just for him to dive on that fumble with a meaningless fumble, it's just crazy how it changed the fate of the franchise for the Saints. It's absolutely wild to think about it. And then we're like, you know what? We'll give you the lightning bug too. We gave you Sproles. He became the all-time all-purpose yardage leader in the NFL history. At a time where it's like, sounds crazy. What? Chargers? You give up Drew Brees? You give up Sproles? But look at what we had. Okay, we give up Brees, but we have Rivers. And everyone knows he's legit now, but at the time, it was like, he's a first-round pick. Like, he's got to either play or go. It was a tough decision. And the injury kind of helped it. It would have been a really tough decision at that time. But then I look at Sproles, and it's like, wait, we have LaDainian Tomlinson. It's not like arguably one of the best running backs in NFL history. So it's not like we need Sproles. And Sproles at the time was getting paid $6 million a year. Now that might not sound like a lot in today's day and age, but $6 million a year at that time, when you already have the highest paid running back, LaDainian Tomlinson, that's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. Nobody was paying that kind of money. Whatever Tomlinson was getting, $13 million a year, $14 million a year, plus six, we were paying $20 million plus on running backs. Name one team that's paying that much on running backs at the time. So at the time it made sense, you know. And Sproles was slow at the time. Everyone thought Sproles was done. Like, he couldn't return punts, he couldn't run, he couldn't catch. Really, if you look at his last season in San Diego, at the time of San Diego, Sproles was not doing good. And so it's just interesting. But yeah, that changed the fate. I mean, of course, Sproles went over there, Brees went over there. You got Reggie Bush at that time. You know, it was kind of like, it was electric for sure in New Orleans. So I just want to say you're welcome for that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't take credit.
Well, I will say thank you tenfold if you keep sending us players that helps us go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be interested what could have been, right? Let's say Brees stays over there and, you know, continues to get better and better. Like, what could happen? Like, would it be the same? Would it be different? Because at the time, they went 12-4 with Brees and Tomlinson, so they knew how to win. But then they also went 12-4 or went 14-2 with Rivers. So who knows? Right.
It changed the fate of, you know, three franchises that injury did. If you think about it, you know, San Diego, we don't know what could have been. You know, Brees did go to a Pro Bowl with the San Diego Chargers, and he was making headway. But the sexy choice was coming out, and that was Phillip Rivers. He's a big guy. He's got all the measurables, same as Tom Brady does. He's a proven leader. The guy's awesome. I mean, I love Phillip Rivers. I think he's a great ball player. But Drew Brees not only left San Diego and came to New Orleans, but he also was bypassed by the Miami Dolphins, which would have probably benefited from picking up Brees, but they decided to pass on him. So he went to New Orleans. So I think it changed the fate of three franchises.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I just wanted to share that because I'm wearing some Chargers gear. I know you can't quite see, but I got my Chargers. Season's coming up, so definitely excited about that. You got me inspired when you were talking about your last podcast with Josh. I was listening to you guys talk about some football, and I was like, that sounds like fun. I'd like to talk about some football, talk some football on the podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, but so tell me about you. Tell me a little bit more about you. We got some rapid fire questions. We know you in the football. What else is going on?
Well, I am 47 years old. My name is Trey Byers-Jean. It's pronounced Byers-Jean. I'm a Kunas from Louisiana. I am married to my high school sweetheart. I met her when I was 15 years old, December the 31st, 1987. She was 16. I was 15. We've been together ever since. I have 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy. 3 girls, 1 boy. They range from, 27 to 10. So they grow so fast. The numbers change so fast. I have to keep up with them. And then I have 7 grandkids and 1 on the way. My son is him and his girlfriend are pregnant, so they're expecting, and hopefully he'll be. The baby will be born around my birthday, January the 30th, or close to his birthday in February. So that'll be really cool. I am currently living in an RV. I travel from town to town for my job, and I'm a commercial roofing contractor project manager. So I travel from location to location and manage the projects. And I also happen to be a raw plant-based vegan. So being able to be a raw vegan in a camper is difficult. But the cool thing about it is it doesn't take many appliances. Really, the only appliances that I have that are mine, that my wife allows me to have, is my Vitamix, and I have a really nice Excalibur dehydrator. So those are my babies. Those are my toys. And so, yeah, I do that. And so, yeah, we live in our camper, and we follow my job around, and I eat a raw vegan lifestyle. That's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah. So what would you say is it like living in a camper? Because I think that many people might not understand what does that mean? What does that entail? What are the pros? What are the cons?
Well, the pros are, you know what? I'll do the cons first. The cons are small, so we'll do the cons first. They're quick. You're limited for space. That's it. That's really the only con, is that you're limited for space. But if it is myself and my wife and my 10-year-old daughter, and if we had a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house, it's just space, and we would have been living in a living room, spending a little time in the kitchen, and then to our bedrooms. And that's it, other than going to the restroom, of course. But so you're limited to one room, a living room, where we sit around and watch TV. We cook or eat, and then we go to bed. And so the camper is the pros are that you can easily go anywhere you want to go. I mean, right now I'm working, so I have to go where the job goes, but I get to stay at cool RV resorts. I can stay in national forests, places like that. So it makes it really, really nice. And you're not limited to one place. If I was still living in a house, the house is fixed. And if my job was to call up and say, hey, I need you to go to Florida. Well, now I got to jump in my truck or jump in the plane, fly to Florida, leave my family behind, or move my family with me, take them with me, stay in a hotel. What am I going to do with the animals? Things like that. So the camper or the RV gives me extreme flexibility, which I absolutely adore. And if I want to go on a trip, I go on a trip, and I'm not pressed for time. I can pull off in a Walmart parking lot one night, spend the night when I get tired, get up the next morning, stay hooked up, haul butt again, go on to the next location. So that's the pros of living in an RV. So very much outweighs the cons.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think that many people don't look at the other side, and that's why I wanted to ask. It's so easy to assume what you might think about that, but it's a whole other story when you hear the reality, from someone that's actually living it and someone that's actually doing it. I think so many people listen to people and things and opinions from people that don't even know what they're talking about or have never tried it. You know what I mean? It's like listening to someone that's never gone vegan tell you, hey, you don't go vegan. It's like, well, what do you know? You've never tried it. You don't really know something until you try it. And I think that's really interesting. And you don't know, the best person to talk to is someone that has tried it or someone that's done it. Like, same thing if you're trying to build a business, and you're listening to your uncle's advice, and your uncle's never built a business. It's kind of like pointless. You should probably listen to people that actually build businesses and listen to their advice. Same idea. So I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And also the cool thing about it too is that most people don't own their houses. The bank owns it, or the landlord owns it, and you rent or you pay a mortgage. This is mine. This is my house, and I have insurance on it. I just take it with me. And if I want to go somewhere, if I want to go visit my family, I don't have to worry about finding a hotel or a hotel room or anything like that. I can just find an RV park. They're usually $30-$40 a night. Park that rascal in there. I've got all my comforts from home. I don't have to move. I don't have to pack my clothes. They're already in the camper. They're packed. It's like a moving truck that's in its place. And so when you go from point A to point B, you don't have to unpack your moving truck. You just have to push the slide out, rearrange a few things, and take some things that were laying on the ground because they fall during travel and put them back in their shelf, and that's it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, sounds super easy, very convenient, and very practical. So then you mentioned something else that I'd like to touch upon. You said that you decided to go vegan, right? And oftentimes that is seen as something pretty radical, something pretty extreme, something crazy. Some people don't quite understand why someone would do that. I remember growing up, and I was mentioning this to my friend the other day. My uncle was vegan my whole life. He raised some vegan kids, and then they were vegetarian after they moved away from the dad, and they continued, eating cheese and eggs and that sort of stuff. And I remember thinking how crazy they were. I remember thinking, like, why? I don't understand. Like, what's the point? I never knew the point, but I never even asked the question. I just thought that it was crazy, but I never asked why. And for me, it was when I was 29 years when I made the switch, right? But for you, like, take it back. What's your reason why? And you can understand that philosophy that people might have.
I was the same way. I had a nephew who was vegetarian, and I made fun of him. And I'll explain why. I grew up in Louisiana, and I grew up in the South. I grew up, matter of fact, our moniker is the Sportsman's Paradise. So Sportsman's Paradise in Louisiana means hunting, fishing, and those kinds of things. So I hunted and I fished, and I grew up hunting and fishing and eating animal products, standard American diet. So when my nephew decided that he was going to go vegetarian, I thought it was hilarious. I thought he was funny. I made fun of him. And of course now I look back and I've apologized to him profusely that I treated him that way. But the reason why I went vegan actually was plant-based first, due to it was strictly selfish health reasons. Again, like I said, I've hunted and fished and had eaten the standard American diet all my life. But if you go back in time to 1978, I was 6 years old. I was in the second grade. I became extremely, extremely ill, throwing up, running a high fever. They thought I had mono. My joints hurt. I mean, everything. It was bad. It was really bad. And they thought I had mono. They put me in the hospital. I become very dehydrated. So they put me in the hospital. I was in it for about 2 months, I suppose, trying to figure out what was going on with me. I got better. And the only reason why I got better, I look back now, the only reason why I got better was because I was fasting. And they were feeding me popsicles and Jello and just anything that I could keep down. But as long as they were feeding me that, and water and maybe some soup, things like that, as long as they fed me that, I started feeling better. They thought, okay, well, it passed, and they sent me home. I was home for a couple of weeks, went back to eating the same way I was eating. Now you have to understand, I used to drink milk from the jug. I'm talking like come inside, pop the top off, and chug it. I was a huge milk drinker. It took about 2 weeks, I think, and I got sick again, really sick. This time it was a lot worse. My stomach became extremely distended, which means it became enlarged, and I looked like one of those little Ethiopian kids that you see on TV that are starving and their stomachs are distended. I was really skinny and my stomach was distended. So they did some ultrasounds and whatnot and found out that my liver and spleen was extremely enlarged. My liver enzymes were elevated off the charts. So they thought I had liver cancer, and they decided to do a bone marrow test on me. For those of you that aren't familiar with the bone marrow test, it is extremely, extremely painful, and they don't put you to sleep for this. A doctor and 2 nurses walked in. They handed my mother a little black rubber round thing, told my mother, said, put this in his mouth and tell him to bite down hard. So she did. She came over to me. She put it in my mouth, told me to bite down. She turned me on my left side with my right side exposed. She covered my head and whispered in my ear, told me it was going to be okay. Just, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. And they started drilling into my hip, and they drill into your hip bone to get the bone marrow out. And so, that was a pain that I remember vividly to this day. It was extremely painful. So they did the bone marrow test, and it came back as negative. I did not have liver cancer. And They were going to go inside and do exploratory surgery on me, try to see what was going on. Before they did that, they ran my lipid panel had went to a specialist, I believe, over in Shreveport, which is northwest corner of Louisiana, and came across a doctor who saw it and threw a red flag up and said, "Have you guys looked at this boy's cholesterol?" And they said, "No, we didn't." They were looking for everything else but that, I guess. My cholesterol was ridiculously high for a 6-year-old kid. Okay. Ridiculous. And so they decided to do more tests, and they found out that I had atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the arteries due to cholesterol buildup. There's arteriosclerosis and atherosclerosis, and that just basically means arteriosclerosis is the hardening of the arteries due to old age, things like that. Atherosclerosis is due to the hardening of the arteries due to your endothelial lining of your arteries becoming inflamed and plaque buildup and things like that. So that's what I had at 6. That is unheard of. That doesn't happen. That's like a kid with type 2 diabetes, severe type 2 diabetes at 6. That would be the equivalent. That's about the best equivalent I could come up with, which I don't even think that they have kids with at 6 that had that severe case of type 2 diabetes. So that's how bad it was. And that's how odd it was in 1978. They had no idea what I had no clue. So they did some more testing. They found out that I have a genetic disorder called familial hypercholesterolemia. And that is a big word that basically means that my body does not get rid of, it produces too much, and it does not get rid of cholesterol in a normal way. And so it builds up. At that time, the doctors didn't know what to do. So their best suggestion was to put me on a low-fat diet, a very strict low-fat diet. Still able to eat animal products, just low-fat. No ice cream, I'd eat sherbet. Instead of potato chips, I ate pretzels. Instead of hamburgers, I would eat like roast beef, lean roast beef. I don't remember that they had a lot of skim milk choices at the time. I may have had skim milk, but it was like water. So fast forward, it took about 4 years for my cholesterol to get normal on that diet. So in my 6th grade year, my doctors told my parents to sit me down and said that he can start eating regular food, quote unquote, regular food now, implementing it in. So I did. I started implementing it in really slowly, and progressively just went back to eating a standard American diet. And through the years, looking back now, I could always feel when it was coming on. I would have, it's not really a flare up, but it was an event where my body would say, "Hey, dummy, you got too much. Stop." I would get extremely nauseous, throw up, run fever. My stomach would hurt. It would feel like my liver was pushing up into my ribs. I would always know it. It would come on with a vengeance. So I would stop. I'd do what I always did, go back, cut back, low fat, watch my diet, and it would go away eventually. Fast forward to 2013, my dad had a heart attack, and I was visiting them, and just happened to be there, and he had a heart attack, and he died on the way. I was taking him to the hospital, and he died in the front seat next to me. And so I hit him in the chest. I called his name. He didn't respond. I hit him in the chest. It's called pericardial thump. It's when you pop him in the chest really hard, and sometimes it'll start him back up. Well, this time it started him back up, and he came back, and I took him to the hospital, or took him actually to a rural fire department, and then they took him to the hospital, and they put a stent in, and he survived. 2014, my mother, later that year, 2013, my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So 2014, New Year's weekend, we went to visit her for Christmas and gave her presents and everything. Went back home. We were living out of town at the time in Odessa, Texas. They were still in the Shreveport-Bossier area. And I got a phone call from my sister on Tuesday, I believe it was, that she was diagnosed. She'd gotten her biopsy back and then was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She decided not to talk to anybody. She wouldn't have anything to do with anyone. She didn't want to. She cut off all communication with Facebook. So the very next day, my sister called me and told me that they found her. She was unresponsive. Come to find out, she had a blood clot that went into her lung. Pancreatic cancer has a tendency to thicken the blood, and it had gotten into her lung and had caused a blood clot. So they found her unresponsive. They rushed her to the emergency room, and they said that she was in organ failure, kidney failure. Her organs were failing, and to call the family in. So we came in. I went in to see her. She was on a forced air machine. She was still coherent, talking, a little bit talking, but she knew what was going on. And my mother had not seen my youngest grandchild. I had two young grandkids that were born right there close together. She had seen one, Lawson, but she had not seen Aubrey, my newest one. And so my brother-in-law and a coworker put their efforts together and got a plane ticket for my daughter, who was up in Tennessee at the time, to fly in. She flew in. My daughter came in with the baby. My mom took the mask off. She kissed her. That was it. She went into a coma and never woke up. So we let her. We talked about it for that day, I think, to see if we could take the forced air mask off. She would not last very long after that. We took the mask off. Everybody gathered around. We took the mask off, and she lived. She just kept breathing. I don't know why. I don't know how, but she did. And she stayed like that for about 2 weeks. She had no input. She had no output, meaning there was no fluids, no food coming in. She had no fluids coming out. She sat there for 2 weeks, just laying there. And people ask me, they say, Trey, what's she waiting on? What's going on? I don't understand. Basically, why doesn't she just die? Why doesn't she just go? And thinking, and even then I told them, I said, every cell in your body, every one of them wants to live. Even the damaged ones want to live, that's what cancer is. It's a damaged cell that just keeps reproducing, and they want to live. And so every cell in her body wanted to, and it was going to fight, and she did. She never woke up. I decided I had to leave. I had to go back to Odessa for work. I told him I'd be, right back. I just had to take care of some things, and my wife and we left. I kissed my mom on the forehead or on the cheek. I don't remember. But I kissed her and I told her to say goodbye, and I went home. My sister called me the next morning and said that she'd passed. So I wasn't there, I wasn't there. It was it sucks, but I missed it. I wanted to be there, but I missed it, and it was bad. So fast forward a little bit, 2015, I had ballooned up to 295 pounds, and for 43 years of my life, I have had perfect blood pressure. Perfect. I mean, stellar blood pressure. But I've always, I've fluctuated from weight, 280, 270, back to 210, 205, up to 295. And then the last time I weighed was 295. I have no idea how much I weighed after that. I probably got into 300. I had to, because I got scared. I didn't want to weigh anymore. It was depressing. But 2015, my blood pressure started acting up. It was getting bad. And I had never had blood pressure problems ever. I got really sick. I was started throwing up, and thought, oh no, man, this must be one of those flare-ups again or whatever. But this one was different. My heart was feeling weird. It was fluttering. It felt really strange in my chest, and then my left arm went numb. I said, oh shit. I told my wife, I said, give me to the hospital. Give me the emergency room. So we got to the emergency room, got out of the truck. I couldn't walk. My left leg went numb. My left arm went numb. I almost didn't make it to the hospital. They put me in a wheelchair, rushed me to the back. I was in there for that day, and then they checked me into the hospital. The next day, I was there for 3 days. They told me that I did not have a heart attack. Your body gives off an enzyme. It's a marker that when you have necrotic tissue or dead tissue in your heart, it gives off an enzyme, and that'll tell you if you've had a heart attack or not. Well, I didn't have that, but they said that I had an event. They called it an event. My cholesterol was over 300. I think it was 305. I was probably pushing 300 pounds. So it was scary. They told me I needed to go see a cardiologist. They knew about my condition. I needed to go see a cardiologist and maybe get put on statins. I decided not to. I thought that I could treat it with diet. So that was the latter part of 2015, early part of 2016. As time does, it kind of helps you forget things. This time it stuck with me. I didn't want to let it go. So 2016 rolled around, and I remembered back. I have some medical knowledge. I went to school as a patient care technician, as a medical assistant, a med tech, and so we certified phlebotomist and EKG tech and all that. So I was very familiar with anatomy and physiology and the way it works. And so I asked my instructor at the time back then. I said, "Is there anything that I could do with my condition?" And she said, "Yeah, go vegan." Well, I said, "You mean vegetarian?" She said, "No, go vegan." I said, what the hell is that? I don't know what vegan is. And she said, "No animal products whatsoever." I said, "Oh, I'm not doing that." So anyway, regardless, fast forward 5 years later, no, 6 years later, 6 years later, I thought about it, and I said, "Wow, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I could do that." So I started doing some research. I came across a guy by the name of, actually, I just wanted to lose some weight. And I came across a guy that was losing weight on YouTube, and he was friends with a cat named John Glaude, which has an incredible story. John Glaude's an incredible story. This cat was way overweight and lost a lot of weight. He's the CrossFit Fitness and Men's Physique and things like that, and been on Ellen. Super story. Well, he's friends with John Venus and Brian Turner, who are vegan bodybuilders. And I thought, wow, vegan bodybuilding? You know, bodybuilders that are vegan? How's that even possible? Well, then I put the two together. I thought, wait a minute, vegan, and I can get in shape, and I can reduce my cholesterol, lose weight. So I decided that day. It was April the 15th, 2016 was my day. I went home, cleaned up my pantry, cleaned up my kitchen, threw it all away, and went vegan right then, or plant-based actually, not vegan. Vegan is vegan's a different term. That's a lifestyle choice due to ethical treatment of animals and the environment. But I went plant-based, and it was an ugly plant-based. Don't get me wrong, it was ugly. It was ramen noodles and popcorn. Plant-based ramen noodles and popcorn, but it was still not very healthy. Within 2 weeks, I cleaned up my diet. I lost 15 pounds. My cholesterol, within 4 weeks, my cholesterol dropped from the 300s to 147. And I thought, this is a miracle. Why haven't I thought about this before? And I never turned back, man. And that is why I went plant-based. And then, of course, later on, after doing that, I understood, I watched documentaries, Forks Over Knives, and later on Cowspiracy. But then the one that really, really got my attention, that scared the hell out of me and really hurt my heart, was Earthlings. When I watched Earthlings, that shook me to my core. And I've grown up in the South, man. And, I've always been, a Christian, a pro-life, Christian. And I never put the two together. I've always been pro-life, but I never thought about the lives of, other innocent animals. I saw a post this morning that said every heart beats the same. And it was, when I first saw it in my old mind, I would have thought, oh, this is a pro-life, advertisement. But it was an animal rights advertisement. And it's so true, man. Every heartbeat is the same. And this really stood true with me And I thought, damn, what a hypocrite. How in the world could I do that? But then give money, slaughter animals myself, give money to pay for the slaughter of animals or eat them. So the ethical part of it turned, and then the vegan part turned over. And it has been a choice that I do not regret at all. And I do it. The only regret that I have is that I did do it earlier. That's the only one.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely, you're in a common place with a lot of people as far as regretting that you didn't do it sooner, you didn't learn about it sooner. And I was explaining to a friend recently that I had felt tricked. I felt lied to. I felt like the system got me. You know what I mean? Or like they got what they wanted out of me. You know, they got me to buy it. They got me to pay. They got me to, you know, they got my money. You know, they tricked me. And I always feel like I'm more clever than that, than to get tricked. But the reality is it's kind of embarrassing, really, because I got tricked into thinking that we need these products. And I just want to touch upon, you know, your story real quick. I think that's a powerful story, man. I think, I mean, I was getting a little bit emotional, to be honest, you know, hearing a family member and the end of their time and seeing it go down and just soaking it in and living it. And it seemed like you relived it right now. So thank you for sharing that. I know that that's not easy. I know I've shared my challenges as well, you know, for past loved ones. I don't know what's worse. No doubt. I don't know what's worse, watching the prolonged suffering and then watching them fight, or just having it just end all of a sudden in one day. I mean, for me, that's what happened. It was just from one day there to the next day it's gone, and no reasons. It's not even like what happened. So I think that you know, I definitely feel that, and I feel for you. But I think it's pretty special that something can change, or something good can come from that. You know, whatever that may be. You know, it helped you grow, or helped you become stronger, or helped you learn maybe a life lesson. You know, they call them life lessons and that sort of stuff. And I think they were looking down right now. They'd be proud of you. You know, proud that you made the changes that you did, that you touched the lives that you have. And I think that's special. And I think that as far as going vegan goes, and the concerns there, and how challenging it can be at times, and that's one of the things that you touched upon a little bit, is oftentimes we are never confronted with this idea of making a change and making a shift, and it can seem pretty scary at first. But it's always great to see results and positivity coming through, and then you start looking into it more. You're like, okay, so if I can be healthy and I can be happy and I can live well, why am I paying someone to harm someone else when I just don't have to? And I think you touched upon a lot. I mean, a good point about the movie Earthlings. That's not something that many people will ever want to watch and sit down and watch. And I think it's one of the most powerful ones, and you need to see it. I always say, if you're paying for this, right, you're contributing towards what's happening. You have the right and the obligation to watch how it's being done. And if you can't do that, then it's almost like you don't deserve it. It's almost like you don't. Well, if you can't watch that, you don't deserve to continue, because you don't know what you're paying for.
No, you're right. And you know what? Something else that watching Earthlings, I've always been told growing up, that when someone mistreats an animal, you know, those are signs you look for, especially young kids or even teenagers, the way that they treat a dog or a bird or a rabbit, if they're into torture and things like that. You know, those are telltale signs of somebody who's, you know, could have psychopathic problems or sociopathic problems. And those are people you might want to keep your eye on. But when you watch Earthlings, there are scenes in there with people who will literally take a fox. It was either a fox or a mink. I don't really remember which one it was, but because I've only watched it once. But they literally grab it and skin it while it's still alive, and they just throw it in a heap. This living thing, organism, animal, sentient being is laying there with no skin. All it has left is its eyelashes, and it's blinking, looking. If you can watch that, and you cannot have a single shred of remorse or care, then you really need to go check yourself, because you've got some serious fucking problems. I don't want to drop the F-bomb, but that just really, really shook me up when I saw that. In the way that they handle pigs and cows and cattle, granted, these may not be every situation in the States. These may be in other countries or whatnot, but they were even showing, I think it was Earthlings, where they were showing, plants that were supposed to be kosher. These were places that you would think would be a little cleaner, a little more, caring toward them, or maybe a little more respectful of what they were doing. They're just as evil. It's just as evil. And there's no way possible that anyone of right sound mind can watch that and think, oh yeah, that's about right. There's no way.
Well, the only way
I've gutted and cleaned deer at the deer camp, and it bothered me to watch it. There's no way I could ever do it again, ever. I can't, and I don't even want to watch it anymore.
Yeah, I think the only way that anyone can come to terms to justify some of those actions that are taking place in the movie is based out of need. Like, we need to do this. But when you realize that you don't need to, that's when it becomes really criminal. And that's when it becomes borderline insane, to see the things that are happening and realizing that there's no need for this. This is just based out of greed. This is a symptom of greed, or this is a symptom of trying to find the highest amount of profits possible for the easiest amount of work, or the cheapest way possible to maximize profits. And when you realize that, that's when it becomes incredibly, incredibly scary, to think that those are some things that are happening right now in front of our eyes. And not only in front of our eyes, everyone's paying for it. They don't have the slightest clue. That's even more scary.
No, yeah. They don't. And the reason why I was saying that, this people who are psychologically twisted into the mistreatment of animals, these people are not necessarily psychopathic killers, folks. They work at slaughterhouses. I mean, if you watch the video, these people seem to get off or enjoy the torment that they're causing. And it's extremely disturbing to watch. It's not as though there are people working there and they are reluctantly doing their jobs. They look like they're quite enjoying it. And it's, instead of, it made me, when I saw it, the first thing I thought of was like, oh, and these people didn't become psychopathic killers. They just became slaughterhouse workers. And that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I think it's like anything you get conditioned to. I always say, like, well, what happens if you were born in the jungle? How would you act? How would you socialize? What kind of things would you learn? What kind of things would you know? Right? If you're have to live in a jungle, then you're not going to be the same person that you are. You're not going to know the same things that you know. If you grow up working in a slaughterhouse, or you grow up working on a farm, or you grow up milking cows, or you grow up directly doing those things, your idea of that not being part of life is so far-fetched. So to hear anyone talk about it as if it shouldn't be happening or that it's wrong is a huge shot to the heart. And I think that even people, oftentimes religion gets thrown into the mix a lot because religion is so close to people. And so when you're saying, that these foods shouldn't be eaten for whatever reason, even if it's a darn good reason, the resistance is very strong because my religion says so, or because my doctor said so, or because they said it's okay on the TV. The justifications for the actions really start to add up and start to be the reason why some of these people are capable of doing what they do. And it's not necessarily that they're born or negatively or born evil or anything like that. They're just part of a system that is trying to produce as cheaply and as fast as possible.
Right. No, I agree that I don't all of them think that. I don't think that all of them are evil. I believe that watching, like I said, when I was watching the videos of that one and Dominion also, there are people who work at these places who take pride or seem to take pleasure in causing harm. Like I said, some of them just don't seem reluctant to do it. They just seem like they enjoy doing it. And, religion it does play a big part in some cases as far as what, and I don't know if it's necessarily maybe religion, but it could be just the way it was done. It was just, it's a culture. I'm from Louisiana. I mean, the culture there is to go mudbug fishing and, crawdad hunting or whatever you want to call it, and pull those little guys out of the ground and throw them in a bowl of water and eat them. That's what we grew up doing as a culture. Thanksgiving is always the same thing, turkey dressing and all the fixings. And then, we're laying around getting fat and sassy and happy, and can barely move because there's so much tryptophan. It's triggered our bodies into thinking, my God, I need to take a food coma. I need to go into a food coma. The one that kills me, or that I think is the most interesting, is, and I mean, I'm a Christian, so I find it funny. And whoever's listening to this, if you are Christian and you're not a vegan, I want you to think about this for a second. You eat ham on Christmas ham. Who hasn't had celebrated Christmas and ate ham at Christmas? Who hasn't celebrated Easter and eaten ham at Easter? I know I did. What are we celebrating? We're celebrating the birth or the death and resurrection of Jesus. Jesus was a Jew. I don't think he ate ham. I'm pretty confident he didn't eat ham. So, I mean, people, so they think of all these things that they did in the past, and they say, well, this is all what we've always done. Well, yeah, but it doesn't mean it was always right. Slavery at one time was what everybody did. The Holocaust was something that was considered right, even though, it wasn't. The ethical treatment of animals, or the unethical treatment of animals, yeah, that may be the way we've always done it if we lived in a jungle or whatnot, is it doesn't exclude the fact that it's not a requirement to be inhumane. And if you're going to take the life of another being, make it respectful. You know what I mean? I have more respect for Fred Bear, the hunter. Fred Bear, if you don't know him, look him up. I have more respect for that cat, because that old dude, he walked around, stalked his prey, stalked his food, and shot it with a recurve or a longbow, old school style. I mean, that's what he did. He didn't hide up in a blind. He didn't sit up in a big box that was painted with fake trees on it, with a heater in it, with their favorite radio station playing, really ever so lowly, waiting around a feeder fixing to go off so that a deer can walk out so they can put a bullet in it. That's just, I'm sorry, it's not hunting. And that's just not surviving either. Don't tell me that's surviving. That's not hunting. That's poaching. That's shooting fish in a barrel. It's not. I've done it. I know what it is. I don't feel like that. I don't feel that I don't have a voice, because I do. I did it, and I can tell you it's not hunting. So there are occasions when there is necessity for it, but we don't have a necessity for it. We have an overabundance of food. We're not dying. We're not in starvation mode. Okay, let's don't do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it brings me up to my next point, which is we both can agree that there's some issues in the world, whether it's whether it's eating too much meat is gonna affect the rainforest, or water usage, or any of these other issues around the world, or whether eating meat causes, of course, more animals to die and it's incredibly unethical, or cancers or diabetes or heart disease, right? And we can draw our own conclusions on the validity of these things and how severe they are, and how much animal agriculture is affecting some of these things. But once you come to the conclusion, you come to the realization, at least it was for me, once I came to this conclusion that animal agriculture needs to end, and animal agriculture is really causing much more suffering than I think I ever imagined, I decided that I want to dedicate my time, in my spare time, in my free time, to really stopping it. And there's many different ways that people have, and I always ask this question on the show, what exactly is it for you? What do you do that you would say helps to help animals, help the environment? What's your thing? How do you give back?
Well, no, I understand activism. Do what?
It could be your show as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. My, activism is by definition is, taking place, being active in trying to change someone's point of view one way or the other, just being active. And it can range anywhere from, and I think we had talked about this once before, it can range anywhere from being something as simple as, voting with your dollar, just refusing to buy those products, take place in buying those products. There's also the Cube of Truth, Voice of the Voiceless. There are many ways that you can do it. My way of doing it now is my podcast, Raw Gypsy Not Quite Hippie, where I, interview influential people who've either, like yourself, who have done it for ethical reasons and continue to do it for ethical reasons. And then I, also interview folks who have stories of self-healing where they've healed themselves. I think any form of activism that you can get into that can make any kind of positive change whatsoever, you need to do it. Don't wait. Don't say I'll do it tomorrow. Do it. And it will lead to something else. Another door will open. And when you find that door, when it's there, don't shut it and go, I'll open it later. Don't say, I'll get to that one later. No, just open it. Go on through it. And so I feel like that right now, the podcast and my YouTube channels and my Instagram and all my social media, I'm just a young baby learning this stuff. So that's probably the thing that I'm doing the most now. It's funny that folks who, I'm trying to think of how the best way to say this, don't get too caught up in what you haven't done and what you have done, because a lot of folks will come to it from two different views. I feel, well, I'm not doing enough, or you're not doing enough, or I could do more, you could do more, whatever. You're not vegan enough. I've heard that one too. You're not, you're just not vegan enough. You're not helping enough. Well, we all drive around in cars. We all go to the grocery store. We all play a part in contributing money, services, whatever, to the detriment of the planet. We would almost have to eliminate ourselves to not. So I don't think however many billions of people are on the earth, are going to all come together one time and go, we pretty much suck. We're going to cancel out. See y'all. Goodbye. They're not going to do that. So like I said, every cell in your body wants to live. And at this point, when I drive to the grocery store, I'm contributing to fossil fuels. I'm contributing to water runoff from the streets and roads, that's polluting. I'm contributing to going to a grocery store that sells food, sells food for carnivores or omnivores, whatever, standard American diet. I'm contributing by walking through the door and purchasing, anything from that place. And even if I weren't, somebody else is. You're keeping those lights on. Those lights are paying, and you're paying those employers, you're paying those business owners to keep the lights on, to keep the food coming in, to keep the trucks delivering the material or the food, whether it be plant-based or not. Contributing to those trucks bringing in, more fossil fuels being burned and whatnot. I mean, so my point is we all contribute. But what we can do is try to reduce as much as you possibly can. So I guess my point is don't get too consumed, not you, just people who are listening. Don't get too consumed on you're not doing enough, you're doing just enough, or the other person's not doing enough. All you can do is what you can do. And if, like I said, I think you and I had talked about this once before, if I go to bed at night and I say to myself, did I do every single thing in my power to make sure that doesn't happen? If I did, then I can go to sleep at night and rest and be great. And I'm good. If I didn't do everything in my power, then I still got work to do. And you know what? I'm 47 years old, and regardless of whether I've been plant-based, vegan, raw vegan, it doesn't matter. For 47 years and however many days, months, whatever I am right now, I can't say that I've ever answered that question. Yes, I've done everything in my power, because I haven't, and I won't. I'm pretty confident if I live to 100, I'm going to spend 100 years doing the same exact thing, thinking, did I do everything? No. Well, okay. Well, I got to do something else. And so that's basically how I have to look at it. So otherwise, I'll just go crazy.
Yeah, often we can become our own worst enemy, but sometimes it's the social pressure, and sometimes it's what others are saying that affect us. And I think it's about training your mind, and there's lots of things that you can do to train your mind. There's lots of things you can listen to. There's people that are experts in psychology and the field of empathy and have high emotional intelligence, and there's ways that you can really learn how to handle some of the challenges, that many of us face. We face a lot of the similar challenges, and when you want to end something and you want someone to help end something, it can be very tough, getting everyone to that same point, especially when you're going up like a big monster like animal agriculture industry, because it's not going to come down lightly. They got their walls built up thick, and banding around and everyone getting together, number one, is necessary. Number two, it's going to take some time, so I think people got to be patient. People got to, trust the system, do what they can do what they can handle, but learn new skills, like learn how to do a podcast. That's what I might recommend to someone, or learn how to create some YouTube videos, learn how to spend that time. Because I think there's people out there right now that might be listening and like, I really want to do something. I love this message. I love what you guys are fighting for, but I don't know what to do. I don't got any skills. I think that there's those people out there as well. And if we can help them potentially to motivate them to learn a skill, because I bet you can learn anything right now on YouTube. You could pretty much learn almost anything you want to learn, any kind of skill. You can learn how to be a video editor, or learn how to edit software, or learn how to create an app. You can learn pretty much anything on YouTube. So the question is, if you are hungry enough and passionate enough and fiery enough and you want to make a difference, I think you can. And I think it's just about believing in yourself and finding the right group of people to believe in you. Because I think everyone has the power to do something.
It's funny. You don't have to watch a single YouTube video, listen to a single podcast. You don't have to do any of that to be compassionate. And that is something that I think everybody has, one form or another, is compassion. And, you can start there. If someone is worried about well, like I said, I don't know what to do. I don't have any skills. I don't have, it kind of reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite. He doesn't have any skills. He doesn't have any cool skills like bow hunting skills or nunchuck skills. Anyway, I don't know why my brain went there, but it made me think about it. But you know what? You don't need to have a special. You don't have to pay for a class. You don't have to pay for, or you don't have to watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast to be compassionate. And just start there. Just be compassionate. I'm sure and almost positive that if you just open your heart just a little bit and be compassionate, let that seed be planted. Well, you know what? People watch. It's funny. I post videos a lot, and I post pictures or videos of these guys maybe saving an owl who's tangled up, or they save two bucks who've been interlocked in a barbed wire fence. They were fighting, they got trapped in a barbed wire fence, and these two guys jump out of their car or truck and go over there and cut the wire loose and break these two deer loose from fighting, and they save them, or they save a cow that's drowning, and they pull her to shore and keep petting her and rubbing on her and tell her, come on, girl, you can do it. And that video will get thousands and thousands and thousands of likes, comments, hearts, beautiful shares, everything. But I can almost guarantee you that more than half, maybe more than 3/4 of the people who like that video, share it, comment on it, will stop by a Burger King and pick up a cheeseburger and some French fries or some chicken nuggets on the way home.
I know what you're saying.
That's depressingly sad because people are already compassionate. You can't watch 101 Dalmatians and root for the dogs getting away from being skinned alive. You can't do that and not understand the thought process of being a vegan, or Bambi's mom getting shot, or Dumbo's mom being treated the way she was treated. You can't watch that as a kid or even as an adult. I still get teary-eyed watching Dumbo, you can't watch that and think, yeah, you're already halfway there. So just be compassionate. I think that's the most important thing, is compassion, and I think if we can get to that point, then the rest will work itself out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a starting place, and what better way or what better place to start than being compassionate and really knowing what that means. And I totally agree with you. I had posted one video on Facebook that I had got from Instagram, and I liked it. It was a great video. It was nice and short because it was an Instagram video, and it had showed some farm animals that had been able to run free for the first time. So it showed like a pig, like a mother pig running, super excited, and just loving life and just feeling what it's like to run in fresh air and grass for the first time in their life. It showed a mother hen that was freed from her cage and just watching her try to spread her wings for the very first time, practically bare, almost no feathers left on her body, and just watching just the reaction to the ground and the grass beneath their feet. Even like there was one of a vulture that had been freed from a cage for so long, and it looked like a vulture or a condor. It had huge wings and just able to fly for the very first time. And just these natural things that are just what they were born to do. It's so natural that they were forced by us to not be able to live and experience these freedoms, these normal, common freedoms and decency of just walking. Like you would never walked in your life. You've never flown in your life. You've never spread your wings in your entire life, right? Now, this video, amazingly, had over 10 million views. On my page, I shared this one. It had 10 million views from mine. It was a direct one from Instagram. I was amazed at the amount of people that had seen it. And it just blew my mind at some of the comments. Some are very positive and happy, but some are very sad. Some are very sad to see the way people think. about some of those that had suffered for so long. And I hope it makes a change, stuff like that.
Right. And you have to, I think you and I had, when we had talked once before, I told you just have to find that button to push. And, there's either going to be, environmental, ethical treatment of animals or health. And you just have to find the one that pushes the hardest, that triggers it. And unfortunately, environmental people do not tend to take the environment too seriously because it doesn't affect them right away. The ethical treatment of animals does not affect them right away unless you leave a dog in a hot car with the windows up. That seems to bother them. Seeing a dog chained up outside in the cold, that seems to bother them. But a pigs or cows in a tractor trailer being transported across country, that doesn't seem to faze people. It just doesn't have, they don't have the connection. And I think, and I didn't have the connection either. I mean, I used to, I've worked in commercial roofing and construction my whole life, for a good part of my life. And one of the jobs that we did was at a ConAgra plant. A ConAgra is a chicken plant in Louisiana. And we did the roof on it. We put the roof on it years ago. And I'll never forget, they had tractor trailers stacked up with all these chickens that just looked deplorable, bless their hearts, at the time. And they're all stacked on top of each other. And the guys would tell me that they would feed the top chickens and the top chickens would feed the bottom chickens. And I just thought, wow, that's gross. Well, I didn't think that was sad. I just thought it was gross. And the smell was just ridiculous. And the first thing I thought of was, God, I don't ever want to eat chickens again, not because it was the inhumane treatment of the animals or the chickens, is because of the smell. So it took me a little while to understand what that meant. But once it did, the light bulb went off and you're like, oh shit, what the hell was I thinking? I'm 47 years old. If I could go back 20 years ago, and I would slap myself upside the head and tell myself, what the freaking hell are you doing, dude? And it's so funny on Facebook, you try to promote this stuff. I get, like, if I sent a video out, or I'm sorry, a post out yesterday, I sent one out yesterday. It was about the 1970s or early 80s handheld football electronic game. Everybody had one, and it got a lot of likes, a lot of comments, because it was fun. It was funny. But at the same breath, if I post one of my things that I'm eating, like today, I drank my smoothie, I'll get one like, maybe one. I won't get a comment. I did post one on yesterday, last evening, about my grapes, that I had grapes for supper or dinner. And somebody posted, is that all you're eating is grapes for dinner? I said, yeah, that's it. That's all I'm eating. But you don't get the love for that. So I'm constantly pushing, trying to find something that triggers somebody to respond or bring in debate. And it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to do. And I want to converse or talk with folks who don't agree with me. I would rather have that than somebody just go, yeah, man, I agree totally, 100%. Well, that's great. I'm glad you do. That's wonderful. I do. I really do. But I want somebody to say, what the hell are you eating? Where are you going to get your nutrients? Where are you going to get your protein? And that's what I want. That's what I want to hear. And we don't get it. I just don't get it. Unfortunately, not yet. Maybe I will, but I don't yet.
Yeah, due time. It's an interesting thing when you are doing social media. Oftentimes you have to share a story, get them to connect with the story. Sometimes you need to say something that's a little bit controversial, something that's going to make them have a lot more questions. There's ways, sometimes when I'm very skeptical about posting just happy, positive stuff all the time. Beautiful animals, cute animals, amazing looking food, and this sort of stuff. It's good, but it's no conversation. There's no change. There's nothing nobody's gears are grinding in their head and questioning. I want people questioning. I want, like you said, I want to hear some questions. I want to know, what are you thinking? Why are you doing that? And I want to hear some answers. I want to back and forth. Hey, why does this happen? This is why it happens. So why do you think that happens? This is why I think it happens. That kind of stuff is good for us. It helps us grow. We wouldn't be where we are today if people weren't asking questions and the right questions at the right time to the right people. Yeah, so I definitely agree. Something I want to just quickly touch upon. I know you talked about grapes and a little bit what you're eating. Tell us a little bit about your diet and why is it different than a typical vegan
diet? Yeah, that's a good question. I eat raw fruitarian predominantly. That's raw fruits and vegetables, mostly fruit. I get most of my calories from fruits. So if I need to eat 2,500 calories, then I just need to, or 2,500 to 3,000 calories, then I just need to get at least 75. I try to get at least 75% of that to 80% of that from fruits, carbs, things like that. And then I try to stick to the 70, 20, 10 or 70 or 80, 10, 10, which is 80% carbs, 10% protein, 10% fat, or 70% carbs, 20% protein, 10% fat. I try to stay in that range. That way, I give myself plenty of fuel. Carbohydrates are fuel for our muscles. It's the preferred fuel for our muscles. Fat is for hair, nails, vitamins. I mean, hair, nails, skin, joints, things like that. Protein is, of course, for building muscle and sustaining muscle. I'm not on any stretch of the imagination ever going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or Ronnie Coleman or whoever. So I'm not going to require, the same weight that I am in grams of protein. It's not realistic. I'm not going to do it. And I'll never do it. I wouldn't want to do it. And I don't want to belittle, bodybuilders. I think they're fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating what they do. I just can't. I don't have the time to do it. So I don't really concentrate so much on protein. I get my required amount and that's it. Fat's the same way. I look at it this way. If somebody has more than 10% body fat on them, which I'm sure they do. If somebody has 10% body fat on them, they're going to look shredded. They're going to look like they're at the peak performance of their physical prowess. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, and that's with 10% body fat, why do we need 20, 30, 40% body fat? We don't. So why do we do it? We eat it. So anyway, let me get back to what I eat. I eat a raw fruit diet mostly. And as far as what is the difference between that and a regular vegan diet, there's so many aspects to the vegan diet or plant-based diet. If you go to plant-based food is any food that is is a byproduct of plants or fruits or grains, legumes, beans, things like that. That's plant-based. So, unfortunately, that tends to include chemicals. Now, people say, well, Coke is vegan. Is it? I mean, the chemicals are, the things that they put in Cokes, especially Diet Cokes, are they vegan? No, they're not. Diet Coke is not vegan. If you want to go by the true definition of vegan, Diet Coke's not vegan. Because if I'm not mistaken, they test the different sugars or sugar substitutes on laboratory animals, rats, things like that. So is it vegan? No, I don't think so. Not only is it not vegan, it's not very healthy either. So a vegan diet is a diet that consists of plant-based that also includes the production of it to not encompass any kind of animal cruelty or the unethical treatment of animals or the environment. That's the way I interpret a vegan diet. Plant-based diet can be, like I said, just anything that's composed of plant-based. And there's whole food plant-based diet, which would be anything that is at its closest form of, if you were to go out and pick it, it's at its most original form that it can be. That would be a true whole foods plant-based diet. And then you have a raw fruitarian or vegan style diet, which can encompass several things. The raw vegan diet is any food that is not heated or cooked. I believe it's 112 to 115 degrees. Anything over that is no longer considered raw. I am more of the spectrum of, excuse me, of a raw fruitarian, where I will also incorporate nutritional yeast in some of my foods. Now, nutritional yeast is not raw, okay? Spices, cumin, curry powder, onion powder, those are not necessarily raw either. So to its truest extent, no, it's not a raw diet, but it is as close as I can get. And I'm looking to see if there's anything that I can get a little bit closer to perfect, but I haven't gotten there yet. But that's what I eat, and those are what I feel are the differences. So just take that, but how you want to take it. But I feel like a lot of these people, when they say, "Well, Oreos and Cokes are vegan," are they? Are they really? Oreos may be. I don't know if they test those, but I know for a fact Diet Cokes, any kind of diet product, they're not.
The big issue with Oreo is the palm oil. So the way that they produce the palm oil and how many animals are harmed there. So that's
true. That's
a big part of Oreos, for example.
No, that's right. That's right. That is 100% accurate. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting. What just like quickly, what are some benefits that you see from the raw vegan diet versus maybe a traditional whole foods or just a plant-based diet?
Well, I mean, I think we are as close to a chimpanzee, I guess, as far as genetics go. And they're frugivores. They don't run around eating beans and rice and grains and things like that. They eat mostly fruits and some leaves and I think some small insects too. But as far as a raw diet and what it does for me personally, is cooked food is a trigger food for me. And I'll give you, for instance, if my wife comes in and she doesn't eat this way. She eats, like a whole food, plant-based, like a Dr. McDougall's, starch solution type diet. But if she comes in and she says, "Hey, I'm going to cook some rice with some steamed," well, let's just say she's going to cook some steamed broccoli. I'm like, okay, well, steamed broccoli, that sounds pretty healthy, right? Okay, well, in my mind, if I eat steamed broccoli, my immediate thought process is to look for rice. I just do. And if I get steamed broccoli, I'm getting rice. And if I get rice, I'm putting soy sauce or aminos on it, liquid aminos on it, and with some nutritional yeast. And then the next thing I'm doing, I'm eating Taco Bell. Okay, that's the way I it's a trigger. It's like a gateway. I'm extreme, of course. I'm being extreme, of course, but that's how I have to look at it. So the raw diet, it helps me to stay true to what I feel my body needs. I don't have gas pains. I don't have gas at all. I'm regular. I go to the bathroom regularly. Great energy. I'm always hydrated because cooked food is dehydrated food, basically. I mean, you basically cook most of the water out, except for potatoes. Potatoes are, they pretty much hold their fluids a lot more than, of course, dried foods, but nowhere near on the scale as raw. So, and plus, you're killing the enzymes. These foods have so many beneficial factors to them. Grapes are wonderful. Blueberries are wonderful antioxidants. But if you cook them down into a pie and you can make a pie filling of blueberries that's vegan or plant-based, and it's, you just basically wiped out the nutrition from the blueberries. It's mostly sugar then. And then, same thing with rice. Long grain, brown rice, whole grain rice it's not even close to white rice. White rice is like a joke. And so the way I look at it is if you're going to make a change, and you're going to if you start at a Coke and Oreos, okay, well you're helping, all right, it's a start, but let's go a little better. Let's do tea, sweet tea, and some crackers. Okay, well crackers are better than Oreos, and sweet tea's better than Coke. Well, let's go a little better than that. Let's go Kool-Aid and some chips or some French fries. Chips are worse than French fries. They have a lot more grease in them. And so you go to French fries and you go to Kool-Aid. I know this sounds gross, but just bear with me. So then you go a little cleaner than that. Well, let's go with orange juice, store-bought orange juice, and I don't know, some grits. All right, still processed. It's a little bit better for you, but you can go a little cleaner than that. And that's my point. You just get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner to the point to where you're like, you know what? I don't need store-bought orange juice. Let me juice my own oranges. And I don't need grits. I'm going to make, I don't know, a banana smoothie, or I'm going to make, there's numerous things you can make for breakfast, or even lunch and dinner. So my point is you just get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner until you reach the point to where your body is going, oh, okay, all right, I got you, I'm with you, I'm following you. This is good. And like I said before, you take an apple or any fruit for that matter, a peach, whatever, and if you cook it, it kills it. And if you don't, it doesn't. If you bury one, it won't grow a tree. If you bury the live one, it will. And it's living food. And that's the beneficial factors that I have found the most. I feel so much better, dude. I do not go to bed with indigestion. I don't have an upset stomach. It's funny. My mom used to always tell me, don't eat a watermelon, or no, should say, if you want to get regular, eat a watermelon. If you need to go to the bathroom, if you're constipated, you need to go to the bathroom, eat a watermelon, and that'll make you go. No, it won't. No, it won't. You know why it won't? Because I've eaten an entire watermelon by myself, and I don't want to go to the bathroom. But if you mix watermelon with fat, that is a bad combination, and it will tear your stomach up. And so if you think about it, most people don't eat watermelons except for when? Barbecues. They eat them at barbecues or big family outings when they got, fried chicken or steaks or whatever. Oh, y'all bust open the watermelon. Oh, my stomach hurts. Man, it must have been that watermelon. Oh, it's not. I've eaten an entire watermelon and not go to the daggum bathroom until the next morning. So it's something to kind of think about. You just, you don't think about stuff like that till it kind of comes around. Chris Kendall told me about that, the raw advantage, and it made sense. It absolutely makes sense. So anyway, that's what I do. That's what I eat. That's why I eat it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing. I think you have an incredible, powerful story when it comes to struggling with cholesterol, high, life-threatening cholesterol at age 6, and how you've progressed and how you've learned, and how you chiseled off, a little bit of getting a little bit cleaner here, cleaner there, into what you've become. And I think that what you become is someone that people can look up to and people can inspire. And I hope you become like that raw advantage, and someone that some people can look up to and say, you know what, I did it because of this guy. This guy helped me find a place where I'm happier, I'm healthier, and I have a purpose in life. And I feel like that's what it's done for me. I feel like this has really given me a purpose in life that I didn't have before. And I felt like I was just coasting through life, just getting by, just doing the norm, just doing the reg, just going through the motions. And I didn't feel like I was living for something. some people say, like, you only live once, and we're all going to die from something, but we all got to live for something, for sure. And I think that what you're doing is, I think you found new life at your midway point. You're now at your midway point. Hopefully, you live beyond 100. I hope you want that. I think that's what you want.
I'm 3 years from my midway point. My midway point is 50.
50, yeah, exactly, right. So you're coming up to your midway point. So you're just
That's
beginning. Right. Like, this is just the beginning. You got a long, fun, exciting ride. Some people never find their purpose. They never find their value, right? And I think that we're lucky in a way to feel like, you know what? I like that I give it back. I like that I'm able to share. So I love your story, man. It's very powerful. I think a lot of people are going to speak to that. And I really like the things that you're doing. I love what you say when you're doing your podcasting. I love what you're doing with your social media. Got to follow this guy on Instagram. And real quick, before we kind of wrap this up, is there anything else that maybe you want to share, or something that you want to really remind people of that they don't forget? If they listen to this podcast, they cannot forget this one thing. One big thing.
The one thing that I don't want you to forget is the simplicity of this lifestyle. It's so simple. And the funny thing is something that is so simple can be so impacting. And if you are simplistic, as far as, like I said before, start with compassion. And the first and foremost, be compassionate about yourself. That is so important. People tend to forget themselves. Some of the most selfless people on the planet are nurses that work in the hospitals. They're also some of the worst, health-wise. They're at their worst, and they're so selfless. They care for so many people that they don't take time to care for themselves. And I want people to take this notion that they have to think about other people first, or other animals first, or the environment first, or the earth first. No, think of yourself first. Always think of yourself first. I know that seems selfish, but you have to love yourself first. Because if you don't, then what's the point? What's the point of you being here? You know what I mean? You have to love yourself first. Because if you love yourself, then you'll take care of yourself. If you take care of yourself, you'll eat healthy. You'll exercise. You'll be better stewards. You'll be better servants. And then the next thing you know, when you're eating healthy, you'll be making better choices. Better choices meaning not taking in animal products. You don't take in animal products, it's a side effect. Then guess what? Animals don't have to suffer. The animals don't have to suffer, then guess what? The planet doesn't have to suffer. And it's so on and so forth. So just be simple. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Be compassionate. And the rest will work itself out. It's the easiest lifestyle. Honestly, it's the most simplistic lifestyle ever. People complain that, well, it's expensive. Only rich hippie, not rich hippies, rich socialite type peoples can afford this kind of lifestyle. No, that's entirely inaccurate. You can go to the grocery store and buy, bananas are 49 cents a pound. Onions are cheap. Potatoes are cheap. That produce aisle over there is an abundance of food there. And it's beautiful. Nobody walks into the produce aisle and turns their face like this and says, "Oh, it's disgusting." Who walks through the produce aisle and turns their face and says, or holds their nose and says, "Oh my gosh, it's disgusting"? How many times you walk by the meat or the fish aisle and go, "Oh, I guess I'll take that"? Everybody does. I don't even walk by it anymore because it stinks. Who the hell wants to eat something that stinks? So yeah, it's simple. So that's my advice, I guess, is just to keep it simple and love yourself.
I love that, brother. Yeah, we gotta love ourselves. It's so true, and I think each day I'm trying to find new ways to love myself and new ways to take care of myself and still give back and still give to others. and finding that balance, because you're right. You can go too far one way and too far the other way. I mean, you can be hyper selfish and not care about anyone. You can be too selfless and let yourself go. You got to find yourself right in the middle. But if you don't love yourself at all, you got to put a little bit more attention there. Put a little bit more TLC into loving yourself. And it could be your mind, your body, or your soul. We have a lot of ways that we can love ourselves. There's not just one way. It's not just the body. It's not just the diet. But your soul, your mind, even that brain. Some people forget about taking care of that brain, building up new talents and new skills, and challenging yourself. So yeah, I love that. So where can people find you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Instagram at Raw Gypsy, Not Quite Hippie. On Facebook at Trey Byargeon. That's TreyByargeon. I have a YouTube channel, which is the Raw Gypsy, Not Quite Hippie. I also have a podcast on Anchor, or I can be found on Spotify, several other platforms, but that's the Raw Gypsy, Not Quite Hippie podcast. And I am currently working on a website, which is going to be a blog post type website, where I'll also be selling some merchandise and things like that. And it'll be the rawgypsynotquitehippie.com, but it hasn't been published yet, so maybe jumping the gun a little bit. But yeah, those are the places that you can locate me, and message me, shoot me a message, anything. I'm all for communication, and I check my stuff every day. Just reach out to me. I love to hear from people.
You know what? Thank you, brother. I love your message. I love what you're spreading. Keep up the great work. And let's hope for Saints Chargers Super Bowl this year. What do you say? Sounds good?
Oh, I'm game for that. I'm game for that. I can do that. I'm game for that. Absolutely.
All right, buddy. Take care.
I appreciate. I was going to say I appreciate everything you're doing too, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always. Thank you so much.
Yeah.